we are using. The commonest are main X-ray, main يعني العادية هذه الأشعة العادية, which is available everywhere. يعني هذه موجودة بكل مكان تقريبا. It is cheap and not expensive, and you can order and request the film easy. يعني موجودة بكل مكان وتبدأ تشخص أحيانا من the more sophisticated types of radiological investigations. Definitely they are in the centers, and if you are in the center, you can request such details. So this is a plain film for the neck of a patient. This is the cervical vertebrae, and this patient is presented with difficulty in swallowing. I mean dysphagia. When you have dysphagia in the cervical region, it is the job of the ENTist rather any specialty. So sometimes the dysphagia hiding serious pathologies. What is the serious pathologies? They are either sharp formed body, or if it is acute, or it is a progressive dysphagia, you should put in your mind the presence of tumor. And the tumor in the pharynx, in ENT practice in general, they are malignant. Rarely you have a benign tumor. So, this is the cervical vertebrae. The distance from the cervical vertebrae to the beginning of the trachea here. This is the trachea. يعني هذه البولس of food من ما تجي تدخل من الماوث. هاي اليوفيلا, هاي البلت. تشوفون التأشيرات هاي. This is the nasal cavity. This is the nasopharynx. Here is in the oropharynx there is a mixing of the inspired air with the food, يعني هو one passage. This is the hyoid bone, and starting here is the differentiation of the food passage, which is this, and here the air passage, which is the trachea, starting from the glottis, from the larynx. And here is the epiglottis, which direct the bolus of food toward the hypopharynx and the esophagus, and closing the glottis, closing the larynx during the glottis. So, if you see this distance from here to here, from here to here, and if you compare it from here to here, there is definitely enlargement in this soft tissue shadow. This is called prevertebral soft tissue shadow. Prevertebral, in front of the cervical vertebra. Normally, this prevertebral هذا normally it should not exceed 1/3 or half of the corresponding vertebra. يعني هاي الفرتبرا القبالة corresponding one لازم هذا ما يزيد عن نصها أو ثلثها. This is normal. If you see this distance from here to here, it is definitely more than half of the corresponding vertebra. هاي القبالة. It is even more than the vertebral body as a whole. So there is increase in the prevertebral soft tissue shadow in comparison with the corresponding vertebra. And if it is more than 2/3 of the vertebral body, it is pathological. So if you take this, it is more than 2/3, right? So it is pathological. Such a patient should not be missed. The next step is to do barium swallow. Barium swallow. And then you can do, of course, CT scan later on if you suspect there is a tumor and there is involvement of the surrounding structures. And finally, you should take a biopsy from this patient. السؤال الآن على هاي الشيء الداخلي. We are proceeding. Yes. Yes. This is a CT scan of nose and the paranasal sinuses. Here I will show you the anatomy to have an idea how to read the CT films of the nose and the sinuses. You know, CT scan, it is a process of different cuts in the or sections, and there is a time between each one, and there is also a distance between each one. So you have different cuts from the for the same organ. We have in ENT practice, we are using the commonest one is the coronal type. We have also the sagittal, and we have also axial. The commonest two views used are the coronal and the axial. I'll show you the anatomy now. See, this is the frontal bone. This is the nasal septum. See? Theoretically, the nasal septum should be straight in the midline, separating two nasal fossa, two nasal cavity into nasal fossa. So this is the left, and this is the right one. This is the orbit. This is the orbit. Immediately between the lateral nasal wall and the orbit is the ethmoid air sinus. This is the ethmoid air sinus. Separating from the orbit by a thin sheet of bone. شو اسمها من يقول؟ هذه شو اسمها هاي؟ سكوت ماخذيها التركيب بالعيون. Called lamina paparisia, and from here infection or ethmoiditis, infection of the sinuses, can separate in the orbit and causing orbital complication of the sinusitis, which include subperiosteal abscess, orbital cellulitis, and orbital abscess and cavernous sinus thrombosis. And here is the source of infection. From here, it goes through this plate, cribriform plate of the ethmoid. So these are the ethmoidal air sinuses. This is the inferior turbinate, the lateral nasal wall, which is this, contains turbinates or concave. The turbinates, they are inferior, middle, and superior. The inferior is the biggest one, the middle is the medium one, and the smallest is the superior. The function of these turbinates is to humidate. They are engage with the secretions of the mucus in the nasal cavity, and it will humidate, filtrate, and changing the temperature of the inspired air. So the air conditioning of the nasal cavity are these turbinates. Below the inferior turbinates, here is the opening, is called the nasolacrimal duct. It comes from the orbit. Whenever there is excess tear, it passes through the tract and drain here. يعني الزايد من الدمع ينزل هنا. There is an opening, inferior meatus تسمى. في النازolacrimal duct. ويزود من الدمع عندنا، الدمع على طول يفرز حتى يرطب العين، اللي يتجمع بعدين بالlacrimal cyst وينزل للأخير through these ducts. Okay. هذه الانفيريور turbinate, which is very middle turbinate, which is very important to us as anatomical landmark in case of paranasal sinuses surgery. Behind it or below it, there is inferior meatus, which drain all the anterior group of the paranasal sinuses. I mean, maxillary, frontal, anterior, ethmoidal, while the posterior group is in the superior turbinate, draining in the superior turbinate. We have posterior ethmoidal and sphenoidal sinuses. Okay? I pass through the film and make the anatomy more clear to you. This is the biggest paranasal sinus. It is below the orbit. This is the maxillary air sinus. This is the maxillary air sinus. And here is the maxillary air sinus. If you want to describe a lesion, we should compare both sides, left and right. What we have in this film now, if you see the color of air in the X-ray or in the CT is black, it means this is healthy. Normally, the paranasal sinus contains air, so the color is black, it's normal. So this is a healthy right maxillary air sinus. If you compare it to the left one, there is a difference in the color, right? So this is the abnormality here. If you want to describe a lesion, the best way to describe it radiologically is to say there is an opacity. The item opacity is covering all the pathologies. يعني أنا أقدر أقول هذا تيومر وأقدر أقول هذا infection، أقدر أقول هذا CSF، anything. بس أنا من أقول هذا تيومر I'm not sure of it. يعني ممكن somebody arguing and asking me what is the proof. So the best way is to give a common item which covers all these pathologies. So the opacity is the best item used. It's not ENT only, it's anywhere. If I say the opacity, it can cover the solid type of pathology, like a tumor, which is a benign or malignant, right? Also, I can cover the cystic lesions inside the cavity. Sometimes the opacity also might be fluid, and the fluid inside the sinus most commonly is perioral type, pus. in case of acute sinusitis. So sometimes the opacity also covers the, as I said, the fluid. Sometimes it is a CSF in case of trauma to the base of the skull. Sometimes it is blood in case of trauma to the face and the sinuses. So the best way is to say an opacity, and then the examiner can ask you how to differentiate between these things. So there is an opacity in the left maxillary sinus. Also we have, if you see this ethmoid, there is a difference in the ethmoid from the left and the right one. So also there is an opacity in the right ethmoidal air sacs. Okay؟ هذا نعطيكم هذه anatomy، فكرة إنه تعرفون